I wanted to give you a quick update on some of my trees that are setting fruit. I just uploaded a two-part video series showing you just about all the fruit trees I have growing in my yard. Quite a bit has happened since that video. Like these cherry trees. On the spring tour, I talked about how last season I only got 2 cherries off these trees. That was mainly due to the fact that they did not bloom close enough to one another to allow for good cross-pollination. Last season, by the time the Royal Lee had started to bloom, the mini Royal was just about done blooming. So there was very little cross-pollinating. This time around they started fairly close to one another. There's not that many that are setting, but it will definitely be better than last year. Here you can see a few setting on the mini Royal. It doesn't have a big fruit set, just a few. And there are still a few flowers that are in bloom. But it's pretty much at the end of the flowering cycle. The Royal Lee, on the other hand, has a bit more flowers in bloom, but it's also coming close to the end of the flowering cycle. And this one has a few more cherries that are setting. Both trees are doing very well, putting on some really healthy looking leaves. I'll be sure to post a follow-up video once all the fruit has been harvested. I'm sure it'll be a little bit more than last season, especially on this Royal Lee. Still has quite a few flowers in bloom, but I doubt they'll get pollinated. And here are my mangoes. Last season, the blooms were covered with powdery mildew. I still managed to get some fruit off of the Kerry mango. It's there, the one on the right. But just about all the blooms from my other trees were all covered with powdery mildew. This season, I'll be applying some copper fungicide with some baking soda and soap mixed in. I'll be applying it every 2 weeks until they start to flower, Then I'll resume once the flowering cycle ends. Hopefully I'll be able to get some of these flower buds to set some fruit. There's a few here on the Glen mango. I didn't get anything off the Glen last season. This one here is the Carry. This is the only one that I got fruit off of last season. It's not looking too healthy right now, but it's still early spring, so it should put on some good growth here pretty quick. This one here is the coconut cream mango. It's already started to push out some good leaves, and hopefully I'll be able to get it to set some fruit this season. And here are my persimmon trees. On the spring tour, they were just starting to leaf out, but no flower buds. Now, as you can see, there are a few flower buds that are starting to form. They're in the very early stages. Here you can see a few. These are at the very early stages of forming some flower buds. This one is the coffee cake. It's supposed to have a really sweet, rich flavor when it's pollinated by this tree here, which is the chocolate persimmon. Hopefully they'll flower around the same time, so there'll be some good cross-pollination. I've never grown either of these two varieties before, but from research I've done, both of these varieties are good pollinizers for one another in order to develop that sweet flavor. This one here, the Fuyu, doesn't require a pollinator. I've grown the Fuyu before, and I've also harvested off of it in the past, and it is an excellent tasting persimmon. Hopefully I'll get a chance to try the chocolate or the coffee cake this season. They've been in the ground for a year now, so they might be mature enough to set some fruit. When I showed you this Pakistan mulberry tree on the spring tour video, there were only a few berries that were forming. Now, as you can see, there's a lot more on the tree. This is the most this tree has ever produced. I'm hoping, in addition to a good crop, that it will branch out a little bit more this season. It really hasn't put on too much growth in the last couple of years, but hopefully that will change this year. And here is the Mexico avocado. On the last video I posted a week ago, it was covered with small avocados that were just starting to form. I mentioned that a good portion would fall off on their own, and as you can see, it's lost several since that last video. There's still several on here, and I'm sure it will lose more of these on its own, but I still may need to come in, and there's even some flowers here that haven't bloomed yet, but I may need to come in and thin this. This tree's growing in a good sized container, but it's a really small tree, so I don't want to let it set too much fruit. I'll give it a couple of weeks and see how it's doing. And now onto the Dorset golden apple tree. Looks like a good amount of fruit has set. There are small bunches of apples on several of the branches. It's set quite a few of them. It should be a good harvest off this tree this season. It's only been in the ground for about 6 months. And it's doing well. And now onto the ice cream banana. They've put on a little bit of growth, but not too much. I'll be sure to post a video as soon as I harvest these. And here is the Cara orange tree, and it's continuing to set some fruit. Still at the very early stages, but it looks like there's a few of them that are already starting to set, so hopefully I'll get a decent amount off of this tree this season. And here's the Meyer lemon tree. It's still flowering, but there are a few small lemons that are starting to develop. They're at the very early stages of development. Finally, here's a look at my stone fruit trees. They put on a little bit of growth since the last video I posted. And this season doesn't look like peach leaf curl is going to be a real big issue. A couple of seasons ago, some of my peach trees were hit really hard with the peach leaf curl. And ever since I've been spraying them during the winter months, it's made a real big difference, and now I hardly have any issues. The majority of the leaves on this tree here are all doing well, especially for a tree that's growing in a container. Here's what the peach leaf curl looks like. Eventually this leaf will turn red, look like it has blisters on it, and it'll eventually fall off. If left untreated, these trees would have likely lost a good majority of its leaves. It won't kill the tree, but it does take a lot of energy from the tree as it struggles to replace the lost leaves. Thankfully, it doesn't look like the leaf curl is going to be an issue this season, so these trees here that are planted in the ground are all doing well too. No issues with them as well. The spicy nectar plum here, the fruit has put on a little bit more size since the last video. I haven't really done much thinning on this one. And this nectarine tree here is still in bloom. The other one here running a little bit further behind. And this group here are my apricot trees, and there's an apium in the front. This is my Blenheim, has a fruit that you can, I think that's about the first one that's starting to set back there. I'm sure it'll put on a few more. Last season, it of the group here of these apricots, the Blenheim was the one that produced the most. This one here, the Katie, didn't really produce all that much, but we'll see if it produces a few more this season. And this is the apium, or cotton candy apium. Didn't get any fruit off of it last season. It's got quite a bit of leaves growing and very few blooms. Well, that will be the end for this video. I hope you enjoyed the tour. If so, please give this video a like. I'll be posting new videos as soon as I start to harvest some of the fruit off these trees. If you'd like to follow along, please consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, stay safe, grow your own, and thank you for watching.